As promised, we have an author joining us next, and see if I can say this right. Gavata.
Javeda.
Javeda.
That's
Javeda.
right.
I'm from the South. Javeda. Javeda is an author. She has a wonderful testimony as well as an interesting book. Get yourself together first. Javeda, good to have you with us here today. And interesting read about this this testimony that's in this book. Tell us about how Get Yourself Together First came about.
Well, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and my mother was an addict for 24 years. And I endured a lot of things during that time with her being an addict. But it did not take away from my longing for her.
Okay.
She left me in an amazing household with wonderful grandparents who took very good care of me, Christian home. My grandfather was a bishop. I had loving family, but I still longed for my mother. Every time I went with her, something went out of order. But
now you went with her. Now I want to make sure that we get this right. So whenever you went to spend time with her, she was still dealing with her addiction.
Exactly.
So you were actually seeing some of the behavior associated with the addiction.
Exactly. Absolutely.
How did that affect you?
Growing up, I really didn't know what I was seeing. As I got older, more into my preteen years, and as a developed young lady, the guys knew who my mother was, and that's how they treated me.
Based on her?
Based on her behavior. Correct. And so growing from that with your grandparents telling you to behave one way and school and the streets telling you to behave another way, and you still wanting to be with your mother, so you're torn even as a child, 11, 12, 13 years old. And now you're developing into womanhood and you don't know which way to go.
So what happened?
So out of all of that, I became promiscuous. I wound up in bad relationships. I was molested on more than one occasion. Slept with several men in my life. My grandmother still praying, still crying, still pulling me towards the church. And essentially, I wound up, when I got about 16 years old, I was pregnant. I went and wound up renting the basement of my mother's home. And this was after my grandfather's death.
Okay.
When I rented the basement of her home, I was pregnant, had one child, still putting myself through school, but the money wasn't enough. The government giving you a welfare check, you still trying to go to school. So I wound up starting to sell drugs. I started seeing what the criminal life looked like. Well, how can I benefit?
You're being pulled all the way in.
I'm being pulled all the way in. So I wound up with my first husband, who became abusive, but I had my children by him, and he was supposed to be the drug dealer, but actually I was selling drugs, and he was just enjoying the money from it. And it put me in a spiral. Then I quickly realized that me being a drug dealer was just not my thing. I guess you can call it the bougie crimes. So I resorted to white-collar offenses.
So you moved from selling drugs to now...
writing my own bad checks.
Writing bad checks.
Writing bad checks.
Knowing that there's no money to back them up.
I didn't understand that at the time. All I knew was the stores were taking them. All I knew was that the stores were taking them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so
what happened?
I started getting arrested in and out of the system since I was 18 years old. Slap on the wrist, because most jurisdictions just believe they give you time according to how much the check was.
Okay.
Then I made the awful mistake of going into Montgomery County, and that is where I wound up getting I wound up doing 9 years. I did 2 in federal prison.
How many years were you sentenced?
15 in Maryland, total 15 years, 4 months, 24 days, and in D.C. I had 4 years.
But you served?
I served 9 years, and I've been home since December.
So you just came home?
I just came home, and I have been on the run for life.
Even as you are talking about this, I can see emotionally it's touching.
Exactly. When you have neglected being a mother to your children, you have not seen the birth of your grandchildren. My mother, even now, she's clean. She's been clean since '99. But I was away, and she sent my baby girl to college.
Wow.
And so she is an awesome woman of God now, a missionary at the United House of Prayer. And she takes care of like all of her grandchildren, 26 grandchildren, probably 30-something great-grands.
Now listen, we started off, and you just shared with us, in very deep, great detail, the journey.
Right.
The journey is in this book.
Exactly.
You just got out of jail.
Yes.
How did you get a book together in 10 months?
Well, I had written the book while I was away. It was a healing process for my mother and I.
Okay.
I was sending her.
So you wrote it while you were
I
incarcerated?
wrote it while I was incarcerated. I sent her 3 to 4 chapters home as I wrote them so that we could talk about them, debate them. She said what she didn't like. I said what I didn't like. But it caused healing between us.
Between the two of you?
Between the two of us. When I got home, first thing I did was go to church, joined a new church, became a member, an active member, got in their Bible Institute, got on the run for God, got connected to some good people, got a good job,
Look at God. Restoration.
Got a 2017 vehicle, awesome career, love my job.
And the book, now the book was brought to my attention. She sent me, I was going to say, Gavata sent me an email. And she brought back to my attention a letter that she had written me.
Yes.
Years ago while she was incarcerated.
Absolutely.
And I had forgotten all about it, but the letter was about...
The letter was about the war room that we had at Jessup Prison and how women were being healed of not being blind anymore. They were throwing down canes. They had life sentences. They were walking out of the doors of prison. People were being healed from cancer. And I just wrote you, I needed people to keep praying for us. And you talked about it on your TV show. And ever since then...
Were you surprised?
Absolutely. I was like, oh my goodness, he got my letter. And everyone was surprised. And so you became an absolute fave of the women in Jessup, Maryland.
Big shout out to Jessup.
And you became a fave to all of us. And we were so appreciative of the prayers because it continued to happen. And so that's how I got connected with you.
Yeah, and she sent me the email and she told me about the book. And I said, you know what? We would like to get you on the TV program. And she said, I would love to come. Now, if anyone wants to get your book, how can they get it?
Well, you can go to my website, which is www.gavata.org, or you can simply go to Amazon and type in Gavata, Gavata, and the book will come up.
You say it so easy, Gavata.
Gavata, yes.
Yes,
I've
indeed.
had it for 42 years.
Now, Gavata is an interesting name, but I'm sure you had a last name somewhere in there, right?
Sure, Gavata Smith.
Okay.
Yes.
But as an author,
Smith.
you're just Gavata.
As an author, I'm just Gavata. Gavata Smith.
Well, you know what? I just believe that your testimony is one that's going to be a message of hope to many young people out there who may, and maybe not just young people, but women in particular who may have shared experiences, maybe even going through brokenness right now, watching us right now. I don't know why that just hit my spirit right now. Somebody may be going through brokenness right now. And what encouraging word would you share with them?
Know that once you get yourself together first, your family will forgive you, your children will forgive you. Focus on yourself. Get a right relationship with God or the God of your understanding and get yourself together. Once your family and friends see the change, they will believe it. You don't have to convince them.
Wow, that's good. That's really good. We celebrate you.
Thank you.
The road of recovery and restoration and now being enriched by God giving you a purpose to be a blessing to other people's lives. Get a copy of the book. Maybe you know someone that you need to gift them. It's the holiday season, right?
Yes,
Give them a copy of the book to help them get on the road to recovery. If folk want to follow you on social media, how can they do that?
Well, I am Gavata Smith on Facebook. On Instagram, I am GAVATAMYM the number 4 Christ, and that's because I also mime.
Oh, forgot to mention about that. You mime. Okay.
I mime. So it's Javeda Mime for Christ. And if you go to my website, all of my social media links are there.
All right. Javeda.
Thank you so much for
Be
having me.
encouraged.
Thank you
Keep
so
up
much.
the good work. Okay?
Thank you so much.
All right. That does it for today. I hope that added the finishing touch to your Thanksgiving weekend celebration. Some very interesting guests. And we'll be back next week with more of All Things Baltimore, so we hope that you'll join us. Don't forget our new time, 5 p.m. on WMAR TV2. That's a wrap. See you next week.